HarperCollins presents The Woman at 72 Derry Lane by Carmel Harrington. Read by Aoife Mcmahon. Chapter 1. Stella. Derry Lane, Dublin, 2014. Stella held her breath as he circled her. He moved slowly, methodically, inspecting every inch of her body. His breath nipped the back of her neck with menace. He combed through her hair with long, cool fingers. She willed herself not to move, not to shudder, not to react. "Very nice," Matt whispered, and despite herself she exhaled in relief. The air crackled and shifted with his elation at her reaction. She knew he was getting off on her fear. She would have to work harder not to give him that satisfaction. Her reprieve was short-lived. No sooner had the word nice been uttered than a long, dissatisfied sigh was exhaled through his perfect white teeth. His face scrunched up in a frown, and the vein on his forehead throbbed in protest. Matt stood back and shook his head slowly, disappointment tainting the air around them. Damn it! What had she missed? In a frenzy, Stella went through a quick mental checklist, hair blow-dried poker straight by her hairdresser and friend Charlie earlier, exactly as Matt liked it. Her makeup was applied carefully, with neutral shades that accentuated her eyes and complemented her nude lips. Stella thought back to the night a few years ago, when she'd paid sorely for experimenting with a new look. Matt had walked into the bedroom, watching her as she stained her lips red. She felt glamorous and sexy, until he stood behind her, groping her left breast and squeezing it so tight that his fingernails marked her skin. "You're hurting me," she protested, trying to wriggle free from his grip. "Oh, you don't like this?" he asked, placing another hand on her behind and smacking it hard. "No!" she exclaimed. She was stunned, completely immobilized by his tone and actions. He pulled away from her and said, "Well, you surprised me, because this—" He pointed to her face. "This trashy makeup will result in a similar response from every man you meet. You look like you belong in a whorehouse." Was he joking? No, his face was anything but jovial. She felt annoyance bubble up inside her. How dare he say such nasty things to her? "What do you know about whorehouses?" She lifted her chin in defiance. Looking back, she could see how bloody naive she'd been back then. That was a time when she still believed in Matt and their marriage. Yes, he had the odd off day, was prone to mood swings, but she could forgive him those because he loved her, because he was all she had. That was then. This is now. "What did you say?" His voice was quiet. Menace laced every word. Stella shuddered as she watched him change in front of her. She tried to locate traces of the kind, charming man she thought she'd married. Then the force of his hand landed hard across her cheek, smearing her blood-red lipstick over her chin. The impact had been so forceful, she reeled backwards against the corner of their dressing table, stabbing her side as she fell. An old injury moaned in response to his sudden assault, and she tumbled down to the ground in an undignified, shameful heap. She stayed there in shock and pain, unable to speak as she watched him come at her again. He was precise. He considered his next move. Then he kicked her hard in her side, right where her scar was. She found her voice as she cried out in horror and pain, and she begged him to stop. But if he heard her, he didn't show it. He told her afterwards that he'd lost control, that he was ashamed of his actions, that it wasn't who he was. His calm, cold face and his precision in where his blow landed made a liar of him. Matt always knew exactly what he was doing. With stark realization, Stella knew that he enjoyed every blow. What had she missed this evening when she'd got ready? Here she was, immaculate, yet still somehow
Sample complete. Ready to continue?